I am so happy I get to speak about this book. Today we were talking about Mr. Loverman by Bernadine Evaristo. What is Mr. Loverman? Mr. Loverman is a story about Barry, who is a 70-plus-year-old Antiguan man living in Britain who has been in love with his best friend Morris his entire life, and at this point he is finally deciding to leave his wife to live with Morris. And I'm so happy to talk about this book. So there are going to be spoilers for the book now. If you don't want spoilers at all, please read this book and come back. If not, get ready for me to gush about why I love this book in 3 points. Point number 1, the characters. All of the characters in this book are so realistic, in my opinion. They feel like genuine, real people. They are all people. They are all deeply flawed people. Even our protagonist, let's call him a protagonist, Barry, is a deeply flawed individual. He is, and obviously it's contextual as to why he's flawed, or as to why he has these ideas where we would think they are a bit backwards, or okay, I understand why he thinks that way. So Barry, for example, is a gay man, but some of his views he holds on gay rights activists, etc., are kind of the views you'd expect from someone who isn't gay. The kind of, well, not someone who isn't gay, someone who is homophobic. And you kind of understand why, though, because he is a man who grew up in Antigua, where, because it was a British colony and laws around homosexuality in British colonies were really just even further backwards than in Britain. We won't get into that. You understand why he thinks and feels this way, and also his thought of he couldn't relate to these people who are out and proud of being gay because culturally, again, going back in history as to why, he couldn't feel that way. He couldn't express himself. He was scared. He admits he's scared. He's also flawed in the sense that, yes, he is deeply in love with Morris, and you really feel that. We'll get into that later. But he is cheating on his wife to be with Morris, and even then, he's cheating on Morris throughout the book, which I'm just like, oh my god, but I can't help but root for Barry. And this happens to all of the characters. Everyone is deeply flawed. Even the one character who I was like, you're perfect, you're a great person, is a deeply flawed person, but you understand it, and it's amazing, and I love it. And that's why the characters are one of my favourite parts of this book. Number 2 is its description and realism of love. Again, Barry, who is this hard, stuck, rough man, he's so gentle when he speaks about Morris. He's so loving, and it's so real, because oftentimes you get this gruff character who's like, yeah, I don't express my feelings, man. But Barry, who is this character who is just, he's sturdy, he's hard, he's that typical, I'm not going to say I love you type character, but when you're seeing his thoughts, he's so gentle. He refers to Morris as my Morris, and the way he lovingly speaks about even the wife he's not in love with, the way he lovingly speaks about his daughters, one of which who doesn't want anything to do with him, and the way he lovingly speaks about art and words and poetry, it is beautiful, and you really connect with it because it feels real. A lot of the time, love isn't described well. It's just like, oh, and they were in love, and it's not something you can kind of understand, but in this, I perfectly understood what love was. I perfectly understood how Barry felt, and it wasn't just love for love. There were things about it. There were fights, there were arguments, there were things they didn't like about each other. Sex was a big part of it, because that's what love is, and it was just so well done. And the third and final point is how this book made me connect with a character who is nothing like me in the slightest. For example, I really love Murakami books. I've spoken about that, but part of that is because I can self-insert for most of his characters. They are usually about my age. They are usually like a guy who is struggling with something about their job, or something about meeting a girl or falling in love for the first time, stuff like that. Stuff that me in my early 20s, and when I first started reading Murakami in my late teens, very early 20s, 100% I could connect with that character. I shouldn't, or in that sense, I shouldn't be able to connect with Barry because Barry is a gay 70-plus-year-old man from Antigua. How am I meant to connect with that man? But I do. I connect with him so deeply. I understand him. He is a layered character. I am rooting for him. I feel what he's feeling, but I've never experienced what he's experienced. I entirely understand this man. I understand this flawed man. I want him to get past these flaws. I want him to face these things that he's scared of inside, these things he has hidden away from the world for years. It is so beautifully and wonderfully done. And again, I got the audiobook version of this book as well, and the narrator for that even hammered that home even more. He was speaking in a patois accent, and I still was so invested, and I felt like I fully... Like, I don't speak with a patois accent. I've never spoken with a patois accent. That's not culturally part of me, but it felt so deep and raw, and it was just amazing how I connected with this character. And it's all down to, well, to be honest, in the book version, all down to the writer. In the audiobook version, which I highly recommend, also down to the narrator, did a fantastic, brilliant job. I can't give more praise to this book. This is a fantastic book in all senses. It is one of the best romances I've read because it's romance, but it's also a character study. It is a deeply flawed man trying to do something that is so difficult for people, and is something that I've never done, but I can understand how it's so hard, and especially for Barry, and especially Barry being flawed, but me wanting to root for him, me wanting the best for Barry, a man who I knew isn't perfect, a man who was far from perfect, but I wanted him to get that happy ending. And the entire time I was reading, and then even listening to the book again, I was like, you gotta give Barry that happy ending. He has to have that happy ending. Please give Barry that happy ending. He deserves so much. And even the character that's kind of the antagonist of this story, who's, she's not really an antagonist. Even for her, I was like, give her a happy ending. She deserves that. Everyone deserved happiness, but they were all deeply flawed. There was one character I wasn't a fan of, but I kind of understood her. But yeah, that's why I love this book. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video. And please let me know if you have read this book. Tell me what you think about this book. I need to stop because I'm going to keep going on because I love this book. Please check out Mr. Loverman. Link in the description down below. Oh my god. I'm going to go read it again at some point.